Hello everyone, thank you for being here and thank you also for the organizer team who make this event happen every year. As they introduced me, I'm a medical doctor, but I'm really interested to get some answers on the female hormone and how it shapes our mental health. But to bear in mind that today's talk is not just for female, it's for everyone regardless of gender, because we have to start really talking about mental health not just as a women issue, and also that hormonal health is not something to be whispering about. So, before we start, I'm gonna introduce you about someone gonna join us the whole talk. Meet Eva. Eva is a very lovely female. She is in her 20s. She's full of life, energetic. She likes to do a lot of stuff in her life. She just moved in with her partner. She feels happy, sometimes moody, sometimes anxious, sometimes not herself. But maybe Eva is like an imaginary characteristic today, but she's gonna join us and she's gonna tell us a story that you're gonna see it in yourself, in your sister, in your partner, in your family, in your mom. So if anyone of here named Eva, congratulations, you are the star of the show. Are you? Okay, you have a great name. So, after we met Eva, we're gonna meet her internal team. We're gonna start by the estrogen. I think that the superstar, everyone knows it, is the female characteristic. It makes us optimistic, motivated, energized. It's like get things done type of energy. Progesterone is more about calm, our chill pill. If the estrogen is the cheerleading, the progesterone is more about like your calming friend when you are on top of the roof, it's calm you. It's buffer our emotions and kind of reduce our anxiety. It has a secret weapon, which is really hard to pronounce, is allopregnanolone. So from now on, we're gonna call it the progesterone cousin. It's actually used in medicine as antidepressant. We give it for a lot of treatment, specifically like for antidepressant. Cortisol, I feel like that's famous by itself. No one needs to tell us about it. But the good thing about it is really helpful when it's balanced. The moment it's off balance, all that crew go to the bin. Before we continue with the internal team, we have all those 4 things. Those 4 are neurochemical in our brain. Oxytocin is very, very quickly like love, trust, and bonding hormone. The dopamine is our happiness. It's kind of more about focus, about like pleasure, while the GABA is more calming, and the serotonin is more happiness, if you're gonna say that. Before I go further, we have to bear in mind that I'm talking today on a biology perspective. But biology isn't destiny, and if it were, we will all react the same, and obviously we don't. So this is where personal, environmental, and society comes in. If we want to talk about this, I need 5 of these talks, trust me, maybe more. So we're gonna focus today on that fundamental biology aspect. Before we go further, we have a look on how the 2 superstars, estrogen and progesterone, change through female life, from ovulation to pregnancy, perimenopause, and all of that. We have to bear in mind that this is if the female has a regular hormonal shifts, which usually is very rare. Rarer than you think. The other part that we're gonna talk about it, those hormones do not just affect our mental health, they affect every aspect and every system, from immune to inflammation to metabolism, but today we're gonna focus on its impact on our brain and our mental health, okay? We go back to Eva. Eva in her monthly dance. You might be familiar with these comments. You either heard them, seen them, or thought about them. Menstrual cycle is something we have a lot of mental health stuff. We recently, with all these trends that has been linked to it, but is it actually true? Let's answer that question. That's the menstrual cycle in general. Before we go deep in that, let's give a bit of a background. Menstrual cycle usually is from 28 day to 35 day. Usually regular, but this is also rare. The majority of female does not have regular period. Just let's break the first myth. The second and most important myth, that the menstrual cycle in 2 phases. We have the follicular phase and we have the luteal phase. Between them, we have the ovulation we have to bear in mind that in the next period, when the first period ends, in the bleeding of the second period, that second phase, the delivery phase, is usually fixed. It's 14 days exactly. So when we say my period delay, it's not actually the period that has delayed, it's the ovulation. And that's something in biology that the ovary will not send the egg out if the body does not feel safe. Is it stress? Is it okay? Am I ready to be pregnant? So what actually delay is not the period, it's the ovulation. So we go back to Eva's hormone internal team. That estrogen peak before ovulation. This is where female report, I am in the zone. I am the best part of my life. I'm happy, I'm energized, I do everything I like. Actually what's happened is the estrogen boosts our serotonin and dopamine in our brain. We focus more, we are verbal better, and we feel that we are ourselves more. While in the second phase, the progesterone rises in another peak. That is our chill pill. We feel like we wanted to stay in our sweatpants and in our pajama, in our bed, the whole time. But actually it's never happened. Its cousin, also with her, increased GABA, make us feel chill, make us feel calm, wanted to be introvert sometimes. But those two, by the end of the period, like before the period, the bleeding happened, in a couple of days, they both go down. And there where a lot of females feel like they are emotionally overwhelmed, or they are all over the place. Those four here to remember. Okay, so if you look at, actually, we're gonna zoom in to Eva's brain during menstrual cycle. If we look at the brain, the more you are green, the less active you are. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so this is where Eva in her period. Actually, the green and the blue is like you have a low activity. And that one you feel all this like low energy, less ready to do stuff. While pre-ovulation and ovulation, you become red and active. And more specifically, the places in your brain that are related to planning, focus, and socialize. While in the last part, before your period, in the progesterone peak, we say that we go back to be chill, but actually the only two places that they stay orange is kind of related in planning, social, but the most importantly, in emotional regulation, become more emotionally sensitive. Which not mean like we are sensitive, we are process emotional more. That makes sense. But if we're gonna link the menstrual cycle of Eva with mental health, usually serotonin linked with estrogen in the first phase, make us focused, happy. The second phase is more chill, and both those hormones when they drop, they make us vulnerable. Vulnerable in a way more irritated, easily irritated, sensitive. What you can do, just break, snack, wine, and keep listening, you'll be fine. Trust us. But is it enough? Definitely no. We have to bear in mind and keep in mind that every time we have to add social, psychological, personal, environmental. Mental health will never be enough in biology. Biology can give us a start, but it's not enough. What actually happened is a lot of females that have previous history of depression and anxiety, they actually relapse before menstrual cycle. And our data in the UK using a big cohort has shown that the last couple of days of a period of menstrual cycle and during the bleeding phase, a lot of mental health disorder and some physical symptoms increase. And that using like 7 million females in this. I couldn't share a lot of more information because that's something happening in the lab now, but that's the only figure that I can show. So it shows that people with psychosis, depression, and anxiety relapse during that phase, but also migraine, seizures, asthma, exacerbation as well. And also the suicidal attempt in the UK was more related in the menstrual cycle phase, if we're gonna link them. So this is where we're communicating with the clinician. Maybe you have to start asking the female, regardless your specialty, where are you in your menstrual cycle? And that's really important. We go back to Eva. Congratulations, she's pregnant. We don't know the gender yet. She didn't want to know. Okay, these are the comments that every female during her pregnancy filled. I can cry at any time, but I'm also really happy and all over the place. Bear in mind, a lot of females really experience this as one of the best experiences in their life. They always say that, but sometimes a lot of them, they feel like really overwhelmed. If we wanted to look at what's happening in the internal team of Eva during pregnancy, here we go. That estrogen, that really cute here, it's not really cute. It's raised massively during pregnancy, and it's considered to be one of the increased amount of hormone in 9 months in the human biology. Like there is no other like documented place. There is some female that documented to increase 3,000 times their estrogen level during pregnancy, and that's huge. The other thing is the progesterone that also increase. Those two, when they increase, they make us calm, happy. They fight. What do they want to make you feel? Happy, calm, okay, energized, so on and so forth. We can talk about them in a minute. The cortisol here actually is one of the places that is useful. Without it, a lot of labor and birth giving will be a bit difficult. But if we look at the oxytocin, it's actually started to increase in the last 4 weeks. And that has something been seen in females that with preterm, like they deliver their baby, earlier. The oxytocin here is important in letting the female start bonding with the baby that's coming. Does it go down? We're going to talk about it in a bit. My favorite part. Eva's brain during pregnancy. If we are talking about the hormone that raised in one of the biggest human biology, so we're definitely talking about impact on brain. All these red in the brain, ignore the name. Until now, I don't remember them as well. Ignore the name. The red part of the brain, they actually shrink. Do they become less functional? No. They shrink. They look smaller on the MRI. What really happening is imagining that you are donating and getting rid of stuff that you don't want anymore in your life, making space for something new coming. So it's actually a remodeling or like rechanging in the wire of these places. If we're gonna ask ourselves what these places are, usually are related to social recognition, self-awareness, emotional processing, and memories. What does that mean? A lot of researchers think that the whole point of these places to change is for making the female ready for the motherhood, the caregiving task that she has to do. So they become easier to recognize clue, facial recognition, emotion, and all the surrounding environment. If those places that they change go back normal after pregnancy, normal size, yes. Would they be the same? Definitely new wire will be there. And that's something has been seen. The faster they go back to the size, or the faster they kind of model themselves, the better the female bond with their children. And that's something has been seen with female, they have a problem with bonding with their children or any other social impact that happen, that actually those places in their brain do not really wire the same fast, or they don't go back to their normal stage. Mental health. Female in the first trimester, most of the female report that I'm anxious about the concept of pregnancy. Would I be fine? Would they have a miscarriage? The anxiety and the concern of miscarriage or default or disabilities in children is a really big anxiety that female reported. But also female report a lot of mental health issue in that phase when they have the physical symptoms like very strong nausea, fatigue, and all of those physical symptoms, pain, or like some bleedings, all of that thing that could be with pregnancy. But actually, there is a rate between 7 to 8% of female report depression symptoms or can actually diagnose as a clinically depressed. And that's a big number, guys. Like 8%, we're talking in like 1 in 20, a bit more. So, if you look at the second trimester, that's the honeymoon phase. Pregnancy has a honeymoon phase, guys. It's fine. It's not a big deal. So the honeymoon phase is when the female go back to their energy, more stabilized. They like the belly more. They start to show it. Sometimes they might touch it, it's fine. But actually, a lot of female, the clinical depression rate is still there, and actually it's increased because the hormonal shifts are worse, or like they get higher during that phase. So the clinical depression rate would be up to 30%. If we look at the third trimester, anxiety hit back again. A lot of females feel anxious, and anxiety sometimes could be a very strong one, especially with female with a previous OCD or anxiety. About labor, about giving birth, would I be a good mother? That's a question we always hear with female before labor. I don't know if I would be a good mother. And that's something a lot of social support came in. It can get harder with a big belly, with a pain, with some size, nothing fit anymore, all that thing. But also, the clinical depression is still there, and anxiety could be one of them. I have the news. We have an actor. We have a new one in the house. Is it nice? I don't know. At 3 a.m. when you are breastfeeding the 5th time in a day, I don't know if that's funny. It's actually a lot of female mention, I would like to be disappearing. I feel like running away a couple of days, which is normal, which we really recommend. Like, run away for a couple of days is fine. Everyone's gonna be the same when you come back. But it's a very nice experience for a lot of female. But if you wanted to look at the internal team, if we can see that our superstars, the estrogen, the progesterone, drop suddenly. When I mean suddenly, like without hesitation. Imagine your brain has been stimulated and your body has been stimulated with a very high amount of those hormones, and they drop poof, down. Nothing. They leave you with prolactin and oxytocin. Deal with them. No estrogen and no progesterone. And the more you breastfeed and the more prolactin you have, those estrogen and progesterone will not go back. And this is a way of like natural contraceptive of the body. This drop off, usually, let's say a bet here. Low estrogen, low progesterone, which means lower serotonin and dopamine. Lower cortisol level as well go down, and the cortisol usually is help us to like stay alert and be ready to do stuff. We don't feel that. We don't have that anymore in our body. But we have something really interesting. Prolactin. Prolactin, with every peak of prolactin, the female produce milk and let us breastfeed. But with every time we breastfeed, we have an oxytocin peak. And that's actually what lets this phase of postpartum really easy for a lot of female. That's why we always say, please breastfeed when you can. And that's the only good, nice internal team that stay active in postpartum in the first couple of weeks to make us bond, love, and the baby that's coming. What happened to our mental health? As we said before, we say bye to the main 3 superstars. And those 3 usually trigger depression in people with vulnerable or previous history. Is also those drop down will affect our moods, our calmness. And this is where our cousin, very nice, very strong cousin, come into a context of used as antidepressant. And that actually is very effective. Like any other antidepressant in postpartum depression is not useful as this one. So this is where the theory of hormonal effect in postpartum came from. We have to bear in mind that the UK data showed all females, in general, everywhere on Earth, go through this hormonal shift, hormonal crash. But do we all have mental health issues afterwards? Definitely not. And this is where every time we analyze population data sets, we discover that the more worse social and structure factors like sleep deprivation, lack of support, communities, financial, the concept or the stigma of seeking help, this has a bigger impact than hormonal. In the UK, 50 to 80% of female report depression symptoms in the first 1 to 2 weeks. Is it temporarily? It's fine. Everyone will feel it. That's why we call it baby flu. I don't know why flu, it's a bit biased here. But those symptoms are temporary. they are due to that huge crush, but the female go back and bond. But actually 10 to 20% of those females report and been clinically diagnosed as a depression, where we need a treatment. The whole symptoms of sadness, low mood, problem with bonding with the kids, problem with feeling or like adopting the idea of becoming a mom. And the risk factor, not just hormonal, are family history, depression, personal history of depression or anxiety, in addition to any strong PMS, which is the pain and the mood stress with the menstrual cycle and all of those things. If the female has a complicated birth or trauma or any complication during birth, that it could be a traumatic event for the female, and any lack of support as social. We have to bear in mind that out 6% of the female clinically diagnosed depression, not really sure about the number, but it's that much percentage of the actual depression females, they don't have a mental health history. And this could be the first sign of their mental health. Rare but exists. 0.1 to 0.2, which means like 1 or 2 female in every 1,000 report psychosis or postpartum psychosis. It's recorded with low mood, hallucination, delusion, and also the thoughts of harming themselves or the baby. Might the number seems low, but if we're gonna measure how many people give birth per year, that will be a significant amount of female having that symptoms. So that way we talk about, when we wanted to talk with female after postpartum, just don't ask her how the baby doing. Ask her first how you are doing. That's more important. The baby will be fine. Trust me. They already take everything from us before they go out. Postpartum depression, if we look at the brain of these female, the places that are overly active and they are really loud is the places that related with emotional regulation and processing. This is usually get really, really, like in a context of like really loud, in a way that overly active, that any stimulant can really trigger that, while the places of planning, focusing, and mood regulation, decision making get quieter. And those reports in the MRI has been also seen in major depression people, like not any normal depression. It's like a very high degree of depression. So the depression after postpartum is as strong as a depression and major depression. Like you need a huge criteria to meet the major depression. Last but not least, the Eva is still hot, but she's coming in flashes. We have hot flashes now. Menopause. I always like that term, and my supervisor always like it. Second spring. And that something has been used in like Chinese medicine, I think. Why it's second spring is actually you're always gonna see how actually the brain is going to get ready to a new spring. What happened in menopause? This Eva, usually, this is her normal life. She's okay, she's fine, she has a normal period. The moment she stopped having regular period, what I mean by regular period is regular to her, not regular by book. Regular period, she started having perimenopause. This is perimenopause symptoms. Everything you know about menopause is in perimenopause. Irregular period, night sweat, hot flashes, memory loss sometimes, loss of libido, don't touch me, all of that things. That usually happen in mid-40s, up to 4 years. A lot of hormonal shift, we'll see about that later. After she had the last period, up to a year, we call it menopause. And here's the tricky part about it, that we don't know you are in menopause. We wait for a year after your last period and we tell you, congratulations, you passed the menopause. So that's something, like someone saying you the pill, like, yeah, you're fine, you paid it, you already paid it, no refund anymore, that's it. So this is where we are. And that's something was a bit fascinating because we really don't know, and this is a lot of stuff happening, and we keep saying to the female, you are in perimenopause until you reach a full year of no period. After that, we go to post-menopause, after that year, and she go back to be Eva. Maybe better Eva. Most of the female report better Eva. What happening on our superstars? We're gonna say that usually they are regular. In perimenopause, they fluctuate a lot. Estrogen usually the domain or like the most dominant hormone, while the progesterone is low. Why is that? Usually because there is no more ovulation, no more regular menstrual cycle, so we are depending on estrogen, because the moment we don't have ovulation, there is no progesterone. In that phase, female report twice more likely to have a depression symptom, clinically diagnosed depression symptoms, regardless what do you have in your history, depression or not, you have a mental health issue or not. And also, the good thing about it, I don't know if it's a good thing, the depression will be relieved after, in the post-menopause, when those two stop moving, stop dancing. But about a lot of female report insomnia, and that something has never been going back to normal, showing the UK data for like 1,000,027 female, that the insomnia that the female reported for the first time in perimenopause, they don't go back to normal in up to 5 years. We didn't follow longer, keep you posted. But we have also the physical symptoms of the menopause. Those usually, the more the female report them, the worse their anxiety and depression symptoms are. Are they correlated? Definitely, in a way or another, because also the experience. Because also the social expectation at that age is not like pregnancy. We give maternity leave after we fought for years, but we're still in menopause. They expect us to run meetings, deal with kids and husband and partner and life, but sometimes we can't. The brain is a very fascinating thing in the female during menopause, that her brain actually changed in a way they use energy. So glucose is usually well known that to be the energy resource for brain, but during menopause, the brain used less glucose, and they kind of balance that off by increase the blood flow to the brain and use alternative fuel like ketone. This is still not really proved 100% in human, but it's improved like on a very small study, but it has been improved in all other animals. And that thing, in this whole blood flow that coming to the brain, is actually showing to us that what we call, or female, or in medicine we call it, brain fog. Female report, loss of focus, low energy, like short attention. Like I cannot keep focused on something more than 10 minutes. And also like all these headaches and all those mental symptoms. Usually they relapse after the first year. When we say to you, congratulations, you passed your menopause, all these symptoms get better. For years, female hormones used against us as a reason, excuse, for our emotion to be dismissed. And actually the science, the more we know science, the more we know that those hormones does not make us less or weaker, they actually make us stronger, adapt better, and better resilient. And the moment we have an off or balance, which like any other body, any other pathology, out of balance, this is where the symptom starts. And this is where I think we should start taking that more seriously. After I know all this, and after we take Eva on this journey, after we know all of that, I ask myself one question. Are women with previous existed mental health, during this transition in their life, get worse, better, or stay the same? It might sound obvious, but surprisingly, no one ever asked that question. We don't have the answer. And this is the heart of my PhD. And I think this is why it was not really hard to convince them for money. Lucky me. So now you know the science, you know where we are and what we understand. It's your time to ask the question that you would like us to answer. Thank you.